2. Welcome back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Back from the beach and Super Bowl 54, and reality sets in that spring training's around the corner. But in the meantime, the Maryland Terps are at least making it interesting whenever they can make a bucket. Robert Canady joins us now. Speaking of buckets, he is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter. And, of course, our dear friend from Compass Point Golf Course down in Pasadena where they were packing them in. And, you know, when my cat is chasing bugs out the window, I know it's golf season, Robert Canady. That's all I can say, right?
Yeah, it sure looked like it here on Monday of this week. You would have thought it was maybe May with seeing our parking lot filled and a tee sheet with a waiting list and guys running around in shorts and everything. Definitely strange sights in February, but anytime we can get that type of weather this time of year, we don't complain about it. We take it and we're ready to move. Ready to take it and wait for the cold in.
Well, people don't put their clubs away, right? They just keep them where they keep them year round in the hopes that, the sun will shine for 48 hours and you can go out there and the grass is mowed and the snow's melted, right?
Yeah, they're never too far away for most people. I do know a few guys who literally pack them away and put them away for the winter. But yeah, most of the diehards keep them handy. If not in their trunks, definitely somewhere where they can grab them quickly, run out of the house, and come out. You may not play your best golf in February if you haven't swung a club in but still, as they say, there's an old saying in the game: a bad day on the course beats a good day in the office any day. And I think the timing was perfect on Monday. I think so many people the Monday after the Super Bowl has become an unofficial day off for
a lot of folks have a headache that morning. Yeah,
exactly.
There's no doubt. Yep.
So the timing was perfect for a lot of people to be available to play.
All right, man, let's get some basketball in here. I don't know what we could say about the Terps, right, other than they always fall behind. Like every team in America, they struggle on the road. Find me a good road team in college basketball, right? And certainly in the Big Ten. But then there's nights where they don't shoot the ball. They struggle against and also ran amidst all of the madness. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than being the ninth ranked team in the country this time of the year to be taken seriously. Yet, you're never impressed by them, are you? Right?
That last sentence may sum it up the best. As far as I guess the only thing you're impressed by is they find a way to win, and I guess a lot of that can go on the shoulders of having the senior guard and Cowan, who more times than not he's going to carry the load down the stretch. And in Tuesday night's game, I mean, it was a prime example of that. The Rutgers had a couple chances late, but their guards, made a couple took a bad shot, and made a bad turnover, and all Cowan does is hit a big shot and make free throws. So I think that goes a long way towards it. That and the fact that Jalen Smith-Sticks has been playing at probably not only at an all-conference level, but possibly all-American level the last 5 or 6 games, and might be working himself into a lottery pick if he wasn't already. So having those two, and then you get a performance like you did from Morcell, who's been up and down throughout the season, to be honest, but of late has played well. And
yeah, but I mean, he's almost like that center fielder that goes over the wall once in a while. Like he flashes spectacular, and then there's the disappointment when it doesn't happen, right?
Right. Then he'll disappear for a while or something. So they're you hate to say they're a two-man team, but really they're kind of a two-man team. They're going to go as far as Smith and Cowan take them. I think everyone else is a role player at this point. Ayala and Wiggins can all have big moments at the time, and they've got Scott in the starting lineup recently, and I guess he's mixing up. But going back to your point, they still have these stretches that where they'll go 5-7 minutes without scoring, and
or 9 minutes when they're the ninth-ranked team in the country, right? And hold on for a second, though. I mean, most people would say Rutgers, they stink. Rutgers doesn't stink this year. All of these. Look at Penn State's in the top 20, right? So, I broadcast all last week from Miami with the kids from Penn State next to me doing their Super Bowl assignment. So I heard a lot of Penn State basketball, coming at me. The whole conference is better all the way around, and Maryland somehow sort of sits at the top of this I don't want to call it a mess. I don't. It's just not consistent basketball, right? Like it's none of these teams look like Duke in '01, right?
Right, and going back to your first comment about Rutgers, right? They just fell out of the top 25, and you watch that team, and Picali's done a great job with them, and they got that big kid Johnson in the middle, who he's just a beast, and that's what it takes in Big Ten basketball when it comes down to it. It's gonna, they're beating each other up as we've talked about this time of year, so you need that inside game. You need the big strong dudes and good solid point guard play and. Penn State's the other one you've mentioned that's been a surprise. So, and winning on the road has been next to impossible. And, Maryland's going to have a couple of those coming up. And, that leads right into a good segue with Illinois that they have up next. And that's, they won ugly in that game early in their year. They both played, if you remember, back in December when the conference season started in early December for a couple games. And they think they trailed Illinois by like 15 or something, I think, that game. And they, early in the second half before they came back and won, one of these 59 to 58 type games, which they seem to have a lot of lately. They, again, it goes back to their trouble of scoring, and a lot.
But they do play defense, right? So we could play the other.
That's what carried them. I mean, I've talked to several people, that have seen a lot more of them this year than I have, and Turgeon has said, has a saying he likes to say is defense travels, meaning when they go on the road, as long as they play defense, they're going to be in it most nights. So. That'll be a tough one.
Well, Illinois won a lot of ball games, and it's certainly a lot of ball games in a row. They have not played as well against better competition, but this is again they got to get on an airplane and in the middle of winter. And as we've pointed out at Compass Point, it could be a lot worse in the middle of winter right now, and it will be out in the Midwest. But these are the dog days. This is where the number 9 team in the country goes out, takes a flight, and stubs its toe the first week of February, right?
Right, and Illinois hasn't lost at home. Like you said, despite maybe not beating anyone in the conference season, I should say. I think they've lost one non-conference game early in the year, but in conference season, I don't believe they've lost at home. So that's it's definitely going to be one of those things. Tough to win on the road, but it's going to be a team. If you're the number 9 team in the country, you should go in and win that game, and that's a chance for them to make a statement when and continue this streak of 5 in a row. I think they're up to now. So. As they head into, still got a good month of the conference season left, and right now tied for first, and they want to keep that spot. Definitely, as we've talked about, want to keep in the top 4 to get the double bye, and they seem to be in good position for that. But just want to start building yourself to play good solid basketball as obviously as you head into March.
And playing on the road. The Northwestern Indiana thing kind of happened quietly while we were at the Super Bowl and, before all that happened. But playing well on the road is something that will be the differentiator, right, for any of these teams that are pretty much bunched up, right? On any given night, there's 6 or 7 teams here that all feel like they're going to be 20-win teams, right? I mean, and we know what the tournament's going to be like 6 weeks from now. But Maryland is certainly... As much as every night you're pissed off 30 minutes into the game, no matter what it is, where they play, who they are, and you go back to Iowa and Wisconsin and you get those nights where they scored 48, 49 points against Seton Hall, and you say, well, where are they going to be in the third week of March? Because that's the only thing that really matters is how are they going to play once the brackets come out, not how are they going to stub their toe on a cold night in Champaign.
Exactly, and that conference tournament, it's another whole mini season in itself, as big as it is, and having to win the multiple games at neutral site there and everything. So it's you wrap up, seems like every year they wrap up with either Michigan or Michigan State as a home game. I don't know if that's how that works out, but it always seems to be that. And this year they'll have what is by all accounts, and obviously a very down Michigan team, that just lost another crazy one to Ohio State, on Tuesday night, with the, don't know if you saw that, but their guy got called for a flagrant foul as he was fouled himself, so that was a crazy ending to that game and a tough loss.
That's flagrant. Try to say that 3 times.
Right. So, they'll end up with that as a home game, and they'll get a rematch against Rutgers right before that, Michigan State. So it's, no easy wins in there. And they'll have to prove it, and if they get that number 1 seed or one of those top seeds, so but again, it all begin with Illinois. I think the Illinois game on Friday night is going to be one that could really set up how they go. Because then they get Nebraska after that, and then another tough road game at Michigan State. But I think if they show well against Illinois at the road on Friday night, that'll be a good sign. That maybe they're getting things together for the stretch, but it's still a long stretch to go.
Nebraska back in. Robert Canady here. He is buckets and birds. He's a Compass Point doing the golf thing anytime he can. And when he's not, he's covering the hardwoods up and down I-95 in the DMV. Not just the Terps, although we've taken a lot of oxygen with the Terps right now, which is what we should do with the number 9 team in the country. By the way, Lucas and I are going to be attending the Michigan State game later in the month, as well as the Michigan game early in March. So we'll be getting on the bandwagon before it's all over with here, and Nebraska next week, and then the big trip to Michigan State next weekend as well. Setting the scene for February and for what you love to do, which is drive around to Towson or drive around to UMBC or Morgan or Coppin. Navy might be the best team outside of all of this, in the area, right? Some thoughts about where we are in February, where Maryland has really become the big banana here as the number 9 team in the country, and even then, the much maligned Maryland Terps, even when they're winning 2 nights a week. Some thoughts about where we are at UMBC and Towson and some of these other programs that have been up and down, but a lot of down, especially at UMBC lately.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. As far as I think going into the season, I expected UMBC to kind of pick up where they had left off and do well this year, and that was before the injuries, obviously, that have cost them several players for the majority and some of them for the whole season. So that's been tough to come back from them, and they're sitting at the bottom of the American East, and right now they look like they had it going for a little bit. They had won 2 in a row, then they've come back with a couple tough losses, and so right now their whole game is or the whole goal for them is to try to get out of that last spot in the American East where they can actually even get into the tournament. With the 9 teams in that conference, the 9th team, last place team, is the odd man out, and the other 8, play.
I don't think that's commonly known because UMBC, you get relegated, right? I mean, literally, come tournament time, you stay home, right? That's truly the NIT. You're not in the tournament at all. You're not even in your own tournament.
You're beginning spring vacation, earlier than everyone else pretty much in the country. And
well, you got to really stink to be that team. I mean, then you literally don't have a chance to even get in the tournament, right?
Right. Yeah. No chance at all. I mean, you're done, and you're not going to. Obviously, if you finish there, you're not going to get in any of the other tournaments. The pay for plays even and everything. So, you just, like I said, kind of regroup for next year, and you kind of just move on. But that's something UMBC has certainly not been in that position in a long time. Certainly not since Ryan Odom's been there. But it's been a struggle, and they've been playing well, but just not well enough to win. And they still got some time left. There's still got 7 or 8 games left in the conference there. So we'll see what happens. And if they get up to 4th or 5th place and win a first round game, you never know. They could find themselves in the finals against Vermont again, but that's kind of a long shot. But it's been a rough season for them, and you mentioned Towson, and I kind of had them flip flopped. I didn't know what to expect from Towson this year, and certainly early.
They've been on a tear. They didn't lose since Christmas or something. It was crazy, right?
Yeah, they lost a tough one against Charleston over the weekend, and that was a home game, and Charleston always plays them tough, and they've got probably the player of the year in that conference, and there was, at my count, at least 4 NBA scouts at that game to watch Grant Riller of Charleston to play, and he was pretty much did what Grant Riller does, scored 28 points and made all the big shots and plays down the end, and Towson played well, but before that, they've been 7 in a row, and they've got coming up this week a couple tough road games at some, the rivals, Delaware and Drexel, and I think a chance to win both those games and put themselves right there in the top of the conference. So they've been playing well, and this was kind of I won't say a reload for Pat, but it was a more reshuffle. The last 2 years he'd lost some guys via transfer and everything, and so he had to bring in some guys that he was not expecting to bring in, and they've got only playing 7 or 8 players most nights, sometimes 9, but he's got a rotation that he's pretty much settled on, and that's early in the season, Ryan Odom had said that at UMBC, and Pat Scarry had said that here at Towson, that they spend a lot of time in December trying to figure out who those 8 guys are going to be. Turgeon might know, with the exception of one. Maybe he's trying to find out who that 6th or 7th guy is going to be. But, the teams like Towson and UMBC, for the most part, were trying to figure out what 5 of their 8 or 9 guys are going to be the core of their rotation.
Well, UMBC, Ryan couldn't keep the kids on the floor, right?
Yeah, he was just lucky to have 5 guys show up at practice is what he was worried about most of the year. And, that made it tough to even scrimmage and, have people to run the scout teams. And I mean, it presents a whole other problem in itself. So, but yeah, Towson has, been playing well, and they've got a really good shot to, if they can cap it off and finish strong here in February, they got a chance to do something in their tournament. At the end, it's actually, I guess theirs begins the first week of March. So I'll be out there to see them in a couple of games coming up in the week, and I was at the last couple of games that they had at home against Charleston and UNCW, and they had a great crowd against Charleston. Probably one of the better crowds that I've seen there in a couple of years. The student section was full, the lower bowl was full, and so that's what winning will do. Everyone talks about what do you need to do to get the students out or fans out, and what you do, marketing tries to do, or it all comes down to win. If you win, generally people are going to show up.
Well, you know what? I got my Coppin banner behind me here on this side of me here, and I've hung it up here in season. They're win one, lose one right now. I mean, if you were looking for miracles, I mean, you're not going to find that with a team at 7-17. But certainly for what they're doing in the MEAC right now, they've been far more competitive here under Juan lately, right?
Yeah, they have been, and that's what you want to see out of them. You want to see continue to make progress and move forward. And the win one, lose one is pretty much what they've done. They're in the conference. They start off with a couple of good wins early and lost a few, but I think they're like 3-6 now. And they get down in their tournament. Last year we saw it in their tournament. I think they won a couple early games, and you never know in that conference. It's not one that North Carolina Central, Delaware State are always up there, but there's never a dominant team. There's never like a Gonzaga does in their conference where everyone knows, or Vermont in the American East. That's a conference tournament. Once you get down there, if you're playing well, you get on a roll. All of a sudden you find yourself playing for a chance to go to the big dance, and that's something certainly that I'm not saying Coppin's there just yet for that, but it wouldn't.
But when there's not a standout, when there's not an NBA kid, coming out of Bethune-Cookman or something, you got an opportunity to win. Loyola even got a big win. Navy's been pretty decent this year. Loyola has not been decent. That was an enormous win for them, right? I mean, they had one in a month.
Yeah, they had really been on a kind of a bad spiral there and everything, so that was a good win, and actually would have loved to have been there for that game, but it kind of conflicted with the Towson and everything. But Navy, as far as they're playing well in their conference. That's another conference where the tournament's not played at a neutral site. It's a home and home type thing. So the higher up they finish in their conference, they'll have a chance to host a home game and.
Drag them down to Annapolis and beat them up. That's what I say.
That's right. And, again, that's the conference where there's no dominant, team. Bucknell is, always tough to beat and everything there. But
Bo Smoke will tell you that, too.
Yeah. So, I think, Towson, Navy, are definitely teams to watch as we progress here. Once we start seeing what's going to happen in March, once we get in another 2 weeks into February and kind of see how everything's lining up, those are definitely two teams to watch as they head into their tournaments.
Robert Canady is out. He's hitting the golf ball, and he's watching basketball. That makes him Buckets and Birds out on Twitter. He's down at Compass Point Golf, our partner down in Pasadena. Get on down to Mountain Road and got 18 on one side, 18 on the other side. Anytime the sun's out and global warming takes over here in February and March, they can host your events coming up in the spring, into the summer, into the fall, all of that good stuff. You can find them at Buckets and Birds out on Twitter. And certainly a lot of basketball ahead here. The Maryland thing's kind of fun, right? Because when they're good, I'm down on Radio Row, and Scott Zolak hosts radio up in Boston. I saw Sean Merriman running around a little bit. So anytime I see him, I start singing the Maryland, we're all behind you. So I get their attention. But the Terps are going to give us a run here, right? At a time when you're a Redskin guy, I'm a Raven guy. We're Orioles people. The Nationals I don't care about at all. But if you're a basketball fan, I don't know that you could ask for more than what the Terps are doing, even though none of us really feel like they're going to win the national championship. At least I don't feel that way.
Yeah, no, they're definitely a team that you feel that you're going to at least watch the first 2 weekends of the tournament. Again, that's the type of thing. Anything can happen, as we saw with UMBC and Virginia a couple of years ago. That was really great to see. But the way Maryland's playing, and you feel that they're going to see them at least through that first weekend, and then you get into the Sweet 16. I think that's the measuring point now. A lot of teams use for success. If obviously you want to get to the Final Four, but you make it to the Sweet 16, you've done more than most people in that tournament have, and you win a couple of games, and there you are.
And that's not good enough for Mark Turgeon. That's not going to work, right? I mean, when you've been the number 3 team in the country, the number 9 team in the country, when you've gone out to hopefully Champaign and win, right? That losing in 16 would be very, very deflating, like the Ravens.
It would be for this fan base. It definitely would be, and obviously for the team. But that's a tough fan base on him. I didn't see all of his comments the other day, but I saw that. I think it was starting to get to him a little bit, where he was bothered by some of the comments, about his coaching style or his, just coaching record in general. And
that's sort of legendary, right? Like Gary never got skewered like that. Back in the 80s, there was no Bob Wade. There was no internet, right? But in the modern era, Gary, for how prickly he was, there was never we were going to fire Gary. I mean, his name's on the court, right? But with Turgeon, anytime they fall behind the first 8 minutes of the game, which I mean, when's the last time they had a good start? I mean, I know in the last month, but I mean, in general, it feels like 80% of the time they're scuffling 10 minutes into the game, and it really creates sort of an online gripe session for everybody because they rarely, impress you, right? I mean, like I said at the beginning, they're not impressive in that way.
Yeah, it's their style of play is definitely not one that leads to that. It's I think having to make these comebacks and these second half pushes and everything, probably put people on edge. Versus for the number 9 team in the country, you're absolutely right. They haven't gone out someone by 25 or 30 points from the get go. And
I don't think Illinois is quaking at the thought that they're coming into the gym this weekend. I mean, they almost beat them in Maryland, right? So
they're looking back at that game early in the year and saw that they played them tough at home, and that they were actually a game they probably felt that they should have won in College Park. Being up 15 in the second half. So and having won 5 in a row recently.
Oh, they will feel like they have unfinished business, no doubt about that.
Yeah. So it's So yeah, there's definitely that segment of fan base, and it's a large segment of fan base that's been on Turgeon and everything. And you could say rightfully so. With sometimes with the high rankings and the high expectations, they haven't really delivered. It's any coach will tell you it's tough to win in their conference, and it's tough to win in college basketball in general. And yes, that's true. But when you are number 3 in the country, you've got to live with those expectations. And Pat Scarry put it well several years ago. He was talking to me once when their team was highly ranked. He said, you have to handle prosperity well, and my team is learning to do that. And maybe that's something Turgeon has to do as a coach, and get down to his players. When they get that ranking, they have to handle prosperity well. And so far they've handled it okay. I wouldn't say well, but they've handled it okay. They're still in the top 10, but it's the old saying, how are they in the top 10? Well, it's a miracle, with the way that they played some of these games and everything. They've been less than impressive, but yet at the end they come out on top, and ultimately that's what counts.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the tournament sites here for March, and saying it doesn't matter how they play here. It's going to matter. Where are the sites this year? Do we have that? Do we know? Is there any
it's
place
funny,
like
I
that
had
they're
up
aiming to
yesterday.
go? Are they trying to go to Pittsburgh or Philadelphia?
I had those up yesterday looking at them, and
Hold on, I got it right here. No, that. Oh
there's
yeah, I
no
do it. I have it right here. So they are Spokane, Sacramento, Tampa, not a bad place, St. Louis, Omaha, Albany, and I'm missing one somehow, some way. I'm trying to click on the bracket. I'm missing one of these sites. Yeah. So those are the places. So have at it, huh? Cleveland.
right.
Cleveland's the other one. There you go. They're trying to get to Cleveland. Greensboro's the other place. So there you go. Cleveland and
They're
Greensboro.
always in Greensboro. Yeah, I mean, there's always one there in Greensboro or Charlotte seems to be. But yeah, that would be, I guess you have to get your top, 4 rankings or the number seed or whatever to
You're
say.
trying to avoid Sacramento or Spokane.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think I still remember the year. Gosh, it must have been 15 years ago where they got sent out. I think it was the Spokane, and
I do
played
remember that.
Georgetown. I think or someone. It was crazy like that. They both D.C. area, Maryland area teams across the country playing each other.
By the way, Spokane is lovely. I went to Spokane last year with my wife. We spent a full day in Spokane. It was fantastic. And the whole sort of place revolves around Gonzaga and all that stuff. But we don't want to go to Spokane. Yes.
Or Sacramento, no. Tampa, like I said, Tampa would be nice. And that would be a nice.
Tampa, March 19th. We could cut that into the schedule. We could work that out. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, hey, man, good week ahead. We'll chat again next week. Robert Canady, he is waiting for you down at Compass Point Golf on Buckets and Birds, out on Twitter, and, of course, at a hardwood near you. Great stuff this week, Rob. Good catching up with you, man.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Nestor.
You got it. Robert Canady joining us here from Compass Point Golf. You can find them down in Pasadena, where they will always welcome you to play around. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, amidst all of the Super Bowl Radio Row residue. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.